Hello accounts people, time to have a look at some hints and tips for getting ready for the exam and the kind of thing that could happen and go wrong in the exam and how to think about it, not panic, not get into a meltdown during the exam. First of all, I'm going to give you a whole series of hints and tips based on my 12 years plus experience of Sage with AAT, because it came part of the syllabus 2010, but also quite a few years training people on Sage in and out of the workplace before then. So my first hint is actually a negative one. The rest are all a little bit more positive. The first one is don't watch anybody doing the grades, the only AAT practice paper on YouTube. They're flawed, don't like some of the techniques, but most importantly, what you lose is your one and only opportunity to do the AAT practice paper against the clock using Surpass Viewer blind, having not seen it before. And that's the real reason you're losing a very good exam preparation session. Other times on Sage, you'll sit in the classroom, take a break when you want to. It doesn't matter. You can do a dozen practice papers. There's loads around. Most students will have done 7 or 8 by the time they take it in a couple of weeks' time, or current class. But they're sitting there, legs crossed, having a drink, not under any pressure. So it's only one opportunity to give yourself that time and that pressure. So that's my first bit of information. Okay, secondly, the difference. This is actually the cloud version of Sage I've got here, and actually file new doesn't come up as company, which is what you would have to use on the desktop version. You can only have one company open on the cloud version, so we have to restore a blank file every time we set up a new company or a startup file. But apart from that, there's a slight difference on the bank recs, which I'll explain, because I know a lot of you will have been practicing on the cloud version, or especially the 30-day free trial that Sage could give you if you ask them nicely. So let's have a look. Hint 2 then. Okay, make sure you set the program date straight away. I've actually got this set actually. Settings, change program date. One of the bad YouTube videos suggests that you try doing it on the 1st, because all the opening balances, task 1, 2 and 3 are on the 1st, and then change it. Well, actually, that could work as badly as not setting it at all. So set the program date to the 31st, and then you know that every transaction is going to appear on all your reports and your bank rec. So it just happens to be May at the moment, so it would have come up the 30th had I not changed it. Don't try and do the 1st and then the 30th, it just causes too many problems. One of which is to do with the recurring entry, the standing order not being processed. I've seen that a lot actually where students try and be clever. Hint 3, okay, customers and wizards. Again, something I disagree with colleagues. However, statistically, I worked this out. One of my colleagues used to click new, and I click wizard. And my students lost a lot less marks on setting up customers and suppliers as a result. So what is the difference? I'll show you. Okay, wizard, it does come up. Page by page, and yes, details, yes, again there's a video out there that suggests you don't need to put these in. Yes you do. Contact details, nothing on there, that page, nothing on that page. I suppose this is why people don't like doing this, because you just click past a few blank pages. This you need to do, so 30 days, terms agreed. If you don't tick that, it's just annoying. Now you can go back and change this, but why do that? Why not just do it right in the first place? And then onto the opening balance. And look, double clicks happen here, and students accidentally don't put in the opening balance, but that's okay. You can go back and change that. In fact, anything can be changed apart from the account code. You can change the names, put in the details of addresses. Might as well create this one. Then you can see, oops, just like DVB, no balance. SCL had paid off the balance. This was actually Campbell, one of the AAT practice papers after the bank rec, so they've actually paid off. They're up to date. So if I had made a mistake on a customer, now if I use new, far more likely I'll miss something out. We'll do it on DVB. Give it a second to open, because it's the cloud version. We can click on opening balance. We could also use this if I made an error, so I can remove an opening balance on the same item. If I put the wrong date on it, forgot to change it to the 1st, I can remove on the wrong post effectively the same wrong date, and then post it to the right date. You can see actually here it says invoice. So if I was removing, I can actually drop that into a credit, but we won't because there's not one there, so I'll just post it as 250. In fact, I could actually post 3 or 4 invoices that way as opening balances. So now we've got our opening balance for our customer that's ever so easy to miss out, especially if you use new instead of wizard, but actually students who use the wizard still miss it as well. Bit of exam nerves, bit of heavy typing there. So there we are, Div and Me's now got their opening balance. Where is the wizard? Oh, it's complete. Yeah, I'm gone about the details. Right, nominal codes then. So customers and suppliers, wizard works better. It's got to take my word for it. After years, my students know to listen to me by the time they get to this stage. This one actually don't use the wizard because that's long-winded. It's actually new. So, and what do you need to do? Well, okay, you can type the numbers in. You can actually change them alphabetical order afterwards, but the real thing to do is actually to learn, find the right Word document, out of one of my handouts, the range. In other words, don't try and learn them off by heart. Know that below 1,000 is non-current assets, then it's current assets, liabilities, capital shares. The exam will only be a sole trader, so you'll have capital. You haven't seen any or heard of any that have capital. 4,000 for sales and stuff, the ones you always have to change. Miscellaneous income is 4,900. Use that for bank interest received. 5,000 for direct expenses. One of the hints later actually, so I won't name it again. Students are always asking about goods for resale and materials purchased. I have come across a few teachers who teach to use 1,000, which is the inventory code. No, that's for the end of year adjustment for closing inventory and opening inventory. Change 5,000 and 5,001 for goods for resale. Indirect and labour expenses, and then 7,000 or the admin. They're in little clusters. So get used to the clusters, type in 7, 4 for anything to do with vehicles, or 7, 1 for anything to do with premises, like 7,100 is rates. So rather than panic, just learn the range. Now when they give you the trial balance on task 3, there'll be a few balances on there that are nil. They're telling you what you're going to use for the rest of the exercise. So it's the same on the greys as on the real one as far as we know. You may also find there's more than one office station. Just stick to one of them. Right, so once you've got your nominal code set up, it doesn't tell you, either in the practice paper or the real one, to click on trial balance. Now why are we doing this? Well, because it's only setting up customers and suppliers that can cause the trial balance not to balance. In other words, to have a suspense account there. I might be messing about with this. So I've got a suspense account. Yes, that 250 is actually because I have just put in £250 as an opening balance for a customer, which means the debtors control account needs another 250 added to it because it balanced before. But you shouldn't have a suspense account 9998. If you have, you've made an error either on the customer's, a supplier's balance, or one of the opening nominal codes, and you correct the opening balances once you've spotted where it is with other opening balances. So I've actually shown you how to do the customers and suppliers. Well, the nominal, I would just go back to it, stick to new, so debtors control account. Yes, I need to put in another opening balance and save it. I now have a trial balance that will balance. Anything past that, unless you actually deliberately post to 9998, the suspense account, won't cause a suspense account. Right, so okay, next bit, okay, suppliers, customers. Customers doesn't seem to cause a problem with invoices and credit notes, because they're in daybook format normally. But suppliers, I think one of my students did this a few weeks ago and it cost him 15% in the exam, he only got 85%. Posted a credit note as an invoice. All we can do is look at his breakdown and work out that task was where he lost some marks, and then later on the allocating receipts and payments was wrong because it wasn't there to allocate against the credit note, and the opening balance weren't there. So, and that's the only place he seemed to have dropped marks, but it seemed to add up to a lot of marks. So be very careful on invoices and credit notes, but you should have had lots of practice at posting invoices and credit notes. Just take time in the exam. Time isn't normally an issue in this exam unless something goes really, really wrong with it and you get in a complete panic. So next one then. Okay, again, I'm almost saying one not to worry about, which is if you do something like a bank payment. I don't know, we'll buy something. For test, I don't know what was. We'll pay some rent, because rent is T0. Rent is exempt, no, zero rated for that. So very easy, and obviously we'll be showing if this goes wrong how to correct it later. Strictly speaking, T0 is zero rated, T2 is exempt, so actually if it was rates it's exempt because it's already a tax, therefore it's exempt. T9 is outside the scope of that, so it doesn't appear on your VAT return. So if you transfer money from one bank account to another, or the owner puts in more capital, it's not income, not part of the VAT return. But don't worry too much. Learning the difference between zero, exempt and outside the scope is actually level 3 syllabus. So you won't be heavily penalised as long as you use something that adds in, that's 0% and don't put any VAT on. Right, allocating receipts and payments. So here we go. We'll do some supplier payments. We'll just have a look. I think we've got Jackson's. I'll put a load on here so we can do this. I'm still getting it mainly in class, hopefully. Couldn't think of a better check number. We'll go back. So the only time you type in the box is for payment on account. You can see I've actually got one here, so I could do another one. That means they're paying us and it's not allocated to an invoice. To make it allocated against an invoice, I really should have clicked here and pay in full, and then we'll take they take off a credit note, and it should come to the right amount. So only up here for payments on account. Now if you accidentally should have allocated an invoice against, say, the opening balance, or a receipt rather, or payment, it can be done afterwards. It's okay. It gets done in the real world. People put deposits and then give you an invoice later, or credit notes. A supplier or a customer might actually want to see that that credit note here is actually against an invoice. If you were paying somebody and you'd sent some goods back, you'd want it to be very clear that the money's come off those goods. So we can do that. We can. I'll get rid of these. In fact, what I'm actually going to do is, first of all, if I go onto the credit note and go pay in full, and then go. It doesn't seem like anything's happening because no check number. There's no payment happening, But actually what that will do when I click save is allocate the credit note against the invoice. So the invoice now shows as £216.35, which may make it easier to generate a payment for. Likewise, I could actually have done the payment on account I can now allocate it against the invoice. So again, there's no payment happening, but it will show in the supplier's account, this one, that the payment on account has now been allocated against the invoice, and we only owe £56.35 on the invoice. That one I'll show. It was Jackson's. Have a look at our suppliers. If I did the credit note, I couldn't have shown this. Come on, there we go. Under activity, and in the box here, if we click on the lower section, oh no, the plus up here. That's allocated against. Okay, maybe it's the desktop version, okay, or maybe it's just taking its time. It will show a breakdown in this second box on the desktop version. It shows that the £400 has actually been allocated against the opening balance. In fact, you can see up here, if you can see it on the screen, it says £56.35. Must admit, I'd only tried doing that on the desktop version, never the cloud version. Learn something new. Doesn't quite look the same. So if you do forget to allocate a payment or credit note, that's okay, it can be done. Okay, next one then. So this one we see, and students normally manage to correct it, but do they correct it efficiently? I don't know. So basically we've got our postings, it's been made, so there isn't actually one to be made. So if I click process, there's nothing to be posted, or post, same difference here. I suppose if I go a month ahead, the next month's should appear. Actually no, oh no, I don't go another month, because it's 2 monthly on this particular exercise. So I click post, and that's what you should be doing when you set up the recurring entry. If you forget, you will most likely notice it when you come to do the back reconciliation, and you'll need to save the reconciliation part way through. You go back to where you started, out the system, go back to here, and then process it. If nothing's showing, check you've got the date right. If you see 3 or 4, you may have completely forgotten to set a program date. The other thing that goes wrong is students forget at the time, they miss the bullet point out that says to do a screenshot. Well, that's okay, because if you click edit, it comes up. So we can take the screenshot for this later. The other big screenshot you do, you haven't got that facility, but that's okay. We know a lot of students forget this because we can see the transaction number, and instead of being transaction number 20 something, it's transaction number 40 something, which means it's been done after starting the bank rec, and it's after the interest and or bank charges. But that's okay, it happens. No marks lost. If you go back, edit it, don't worry, don't panic. Okay, getting used to what you can correct and delete. In a way, this is one of the big ones. So let's have a look at our transactions. I'll put a load of dummy ones on because a load of these are bank reconciled anyway. Let's hold on the opening balances. What did I do? Oh, here we go. This one, nice simple, not this one. That one. Right, so I can double click on it and bring it up. Notice at the top it says edit or delete. Now I can't turn a receipt into a payment or a payment into a receipt, therefore I just have to delete it and repost it. That's quite easy to do. There's one historical one in one of the old exams where somebody has a receipt for a motor vehicle, and students get it the wrong way around. But on this first screen I can change the bank. Now PC14 and it's stationary. Yeah, it should actually have been petty cash. I can change the date. I can't change the amount, so it says slightly lighter grey. I need to click edit for that. So again, I can change 7502 to a different nominal code, and if for instance I forgot to notice that it was 0 rated or something, I can change that. It will offer to recalculate it for me, or I could actually say no thanks, I'll calculate it myself, and then close. It hasn't done it yet, hasn't changed it, and now it will. So you don't do it by accident. And now it says 12:30, and then at the bottom there's a deleted, the old one's been cancelled. C51, yeah, which is this one. So the corrected one goes in order, which is why the edit and delete button looks better. It's easier for people to find, because if you deleted and then posted new, the new transaction would be at the end, out of time order. So most things can be changed like that. We can post stuff. Other things generally would be in the bank rec. We can do lots of omission errors. So the one that AAT always seem to like, I didn't mean to do that, bank, on the reconciliation. It's been completely messed up because it has already reconciled. Hence I've got the opportunity to reverse it. I've got a big difference there, yeah, it's because I haven't reconciled a lot. Match. Now on the desktop version you have actually got the adjust button here. On the cloud version you don't. It's one of the big differences. It doesn't appear, the adjust button on the cloud version, until you click reconcile, and then I can add adjustment. So it's about knowing what you can do. Now AAT will deliberately have messed something out, like task 6 of bookkeeping controls, to update the cash book. So there will be a payment or a receipt that hasn't gone onto the account. It happens all the time, hence it's easy to do. No need to start the bank rec again or save it or anything, just nice easy correction. So you can do bank receipts, customer receipts, supplier refunds, all the things you can see on the screen, including the bank transfer. So that's nice and easy to do. We're only £74 out, can't find it, running out of time, no need to panic. It was selected on that. I can click reconcile and I can actually reconcile and ignore the difference. Now it won't be perfect, there's got to be some marks lost, but if I don't click ignore difference, I haven't completed a bank reconciliation, and therefore I haven't got a report to upload to AAT, so I'm going to lose a whole load of marks. So it will still reconcile all the items that are meant to be reconciled. I can worry about the 74 later. I can actually, if I realise something was wrong, I could use the system there to change it and then delete the transaction afterwards as well. There will of course be something at the top not matched. Bookkeeping controls, task 7. Okay, so let's have a look at the standard reports. So we've got our reports. Oh, just one last error, obviously. If you forgot to do the screenshot of the reconciliation process, because that tells the assessor that you put the right end balance in, the right date, it shows what you haven't matched and what you've matched, and that you've got a difference of 0. Don't worry, it happens. There's a report you can do, it's second best. Let's have a look. Favourites, what have we got? Bank payments, let's read the list. Reconcile transactions. Which transactions have been reconciled on which date, grouped by the date they were reconciled, is the best one, but actually you could use the next one and you could use the reconciled and unreconciled one. So you can upload that report to AAT as second best to the screenshot. Reports then, let's have a look at the report. So I've done other videos on the report, so actually I'm just going to go quickly through the list. There are more hints in the list. Since a few of the videos were shot on YouTube, AAT have actually, we believe, slightly changed the file names. I think they now all begin with UAX. It's what I've been told by a student who was asked to do it. And that's so that if it gets lost on AAT's database, they can look for anything beginning with UAX, and it'll have your AAT number on it and the evidence. It won't apparently have your name on it again. Well, I suppose that's to avoid being namist. Obviously these are the standard reports, just the custom activities. So on any version of Sage 50, evidence 1A and 1B can be together, so you can call it evidence 1A and 1B, because the customer activity report shows the customer name, account code, how much is owed, and all the transactions. So that's just one report. And it's the same with the suppliers ones. The standard ordinary detailed supplier activity shows everything that they need, so it's evidence 2A and 2B can go together. The audit trail is the one with the most marks on it. One of my students a long time ago who didn't pass, was having a bit of a mare, was on the audit trail and it timed out on her. One more click, upload the audit trail, and she probably would have passed first time instead of second time. The trial balance, so you do a trial balance at the end. They're not interested in the one when you've just done task 1, 2 and 3 though. And then the screenshot of the recurring entry, the one that you can go back and do if you forget it, and then screenshot of the bank rec, which is the one that you can't go back and do once you clicked reconcile, so you have to do the report instead and hope the assessor notices. In the audit trail, of course, it does actually have the date and a list and against the reconciliation. If it's not there, they haven't. Not a bad idea to practice some of the other reports: age debtors, age creditors, statements, and then the last one, I've already done that one. Make sure you save your files where the invigilator suggests. Different colleges, different learning providers, some actually have to use memory sticks so you don't accidentally upload somebody else's work, or some of them, the colleges don't allow you to save stuff onto the desktop, because the easiest thing on a normal place for this exam would actually be to save it on a desktop and then upload it from the desktop. You can't actually practice uploading. When you do the AAT practice paper, you click upload and the box comes up and it tells you can't do it. But actually all you would do is click upload, find the file, click on it, and then before you actually submit it, or after you click submit, the list comes up so you can be sure that you've uploaded everything. One thing I came across a long time ago, if your college has got a really old version of Windows, make sure you close the Word files. You can't open, I think it's literally going back to Windows 7 or Windows 8 and older. You couldn't actually upload an open Word file. Modern ones will do that. Obviously if you don't upload anything, you get 0%. AAT can only assess what you upload. If it times out part way through and it's in the box, it will go, even though you haven't clicked submit. Just like your normal exams, it submits as far as you've got. And it's the uploading students always worry about, because you can't practice it. But having said that, most students have uploaded to Teams, or if you upload to Google Documents or Dropbox or anything like that, it's pretty much the same system. And most students are used to uploading stuff like that.